Hello, everyone. I'm Robyn Grable, the founder of Talents Ascend and the Ascend Collective, and your host for Ascending Beyond Barriers. Welcome. Ascending Beyond Barriers is an inspiring podcast dedicated to showcasing the remarkable journeys of small business founders who have faced and overcome significant challenges on their path to success. Each episode delves into the personal stories of entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds, highlighting their unique experiences, struggles, and triumphs. Today, we have a wonderful guest. Lupei Chow is a U.S. Navy veteran, real estate investor, and passionate advocate for financial empowerment. Originally from Taiwan, Lupei retired in 2024 after 23 years of service as a Supply Corps officer with deployments at sea and in Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom. Her real estate journey began in 2018 and has since grown into a $10.3 million portfolio across Texas and Kentucky. Now based in Huntsville, Alabama, Lupei is on a mission to make real estate investing accessible to all using her leadership and logistics expertise to inspire and educate others. Lupei, thank you so much for being here. It's so great to meet you. I just have to always say go Navy because I was in the Navy for 9 years. So it's near and dear to my heart, even though what I do is impartial to branch today. But thank you for your service in the Navy, 23 years. Wow. So let's start there. How did you decide to go in the Navy? Kind of give us that background.
Hi, Robyn. Thank you first for the warm welcome. I've been looking forward to this for a few months now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did I join the Navy? So I know you probably heard this before. I didn't plan on it.
Right.
I really didn't. I was, it was the last year of my high school. I was, lost at 18, not sure what's next, like so many of us, right? Like
I can relate to that.
I had a girlfriend at the time, high school friend. She was interested in joining the military, and I didn't even know anything about the military at all at the time. She just asked me to accompany her to go to the local map office to check it out. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, we went, and the rest is the history, right? So
Did she join as well with you or she didn't?
she didn't. So yeah, that's always how it works out. She didn't. She was a little bit, she's a big girl. Okay, she's a big girl,
Okay.
so she had a little
Uh,
challenges, with the body weight.
yep.
But I didn't, she was probably not like really serious about, getting on a diet and start
Yeah.
exercising. No, so we just kind of like went through the process together. I just kind of like went along with it. I really didn't, think that's the path I'll be walking for the next 23 years, right?
Yeah. 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 So
But
tell us about that. Like you go in kind of unexpectedly, and then how did it end up being 23 years?
yeah, so I joined the Navy and then did my boot camp in Great Lakes, Illinois.
Mhm.
Went on my first ship in San Diego. I
Nice.
was on USS Rushmore amphibious class. I started out as a deck seaman.
Okay.
So yeah, deck seaman, worked my way up. Um, I took the test for a logistics specialist,
Okay.
third class, second class, and I only had a 4 year enlistment, and I got out, thinking I want to go back to school. I was really admiring the officers on my ship, like I just was like, wow, being an officer is just like so cool, right? Like the 18-year-old me, 19-year-old me. So
Right.
I was like, I want to one day become an officer, I was not qualified at the time because I was not a US citizen.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I couldn't, and that's the reason why I got out because it was not an option for me, right? So,
Wow.
but I did
Okay.
have my GI Bill. So I say, you know what? I am going to get my degree and work on the citizenship and come back.
Wow.
So I did that. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's dedication to really really wanting to be an officer, which I can relate to because I had my enlistment. I was in for 5 years and then got orders to Pearl Harbor, and I wanted to become an officer too because I thought becoming an officer I could change the Navy. It's like there were so many things that were going on that at the time. I mean, I was in the Navy in 79 to 88, so it was very different time. But
Man.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, I'll become an officer and I can just, wear that uniform and change the Navy. But no, that didn't work out.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I did I used the GI Bill, right? Got my college education,
Nice.
applied for OCS, and then I got my citizenship kind of like, around the time I was in college.
Okay.
And then applied for the OCS and came back in as a supply officer.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that as well. I mean, that's not an easy feat. I've certainly never gone through it, but I've heard it's not an easy test or an easy path to go down. So, congratulations on accomplishing that. And
Okay.
so so you were an officer for most of your time then in the Navy. Sounds like.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
majority of it, you're right. I only have 4 year enlisted time.
Okay. Wow. So how was it serving on a ship? When I was in Pearl Harbor, I was leaving and we were getting orders to the next place. My ex-husband at the time was also in the Navy. And I wanted to go on the ship. I wanted to volunteer to go on a ship because I wanted that experience. But at the time, females weren't allowed to have dependents and
Yeah.
serve on a ship of any kind. And there were still a lot of limitations back then in 87 to what kind of ship of, females could serve on. So they said, hey, we're happy to have you, but you can't have a dependent. And I had my daughter; she was 3 at the time, and I was
How
like,
absurd, right? Like
yeah,
how absurd that was. If
right,
men can be on the ship, have dependent, like why is that different for a woman, right?
exactly, exactly. So I was like, well, I won't not giving up my daughter for anything or anyone, especially the Navy. So yeah, so I didn't get that. So tell us about that. Tell us a little bit about your experience on the ship.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. But I feel like sometimes ignorance is a good thing, right? Because you just
Yeah,
don't even know.
right.
You just don't even know. For one, I was like a new immigrant, right? I didn't really know, much about the US military,
Okay.
and then like the whole integrating women into the ship part at all. I
Yeah.
was just totally ignorant to it. When I reported to my first ship, that's when they put on. We were the first group of women, so there were
Wow.
five of us, right,
Wow.
on board, like a 350 man crew, right? So I remember clearly it was me. It was so there were four young ladies and one chief, right? So we had a chief, a female
Okay.
chief, who's MS chief, cook,
Yeah.
galley, right? Working the galley. It was me. It was another girl. She's an OS.
Okay.
Another girl who's also a cook. We had
Wow.
like a PN, yeoman, personnel man. So yeah, it was five of us. And I don't know. I feel like, with the exception of the chief, the rest of us were just like clueless.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Wow.
it's a good thing because you really didn't know the significance of it and not really making a big deal out of it, right? We're just like, we're just going to our first duty station, reporting, just not really thinking much of it.
Wanted to do your job, right? Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And how long
But
were you on that ship?
for my entire time, so 3.5 years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
by the time I was getting out, we were at almost like, I want to say, half and half. So it was a really quick process to bring the women on board, right? So by the time I was leaving, it was, yeah, there are just as many female as the male.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was all happened like within 3 years.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think they realized very quickly how valuable we can be, didn't they?
Of course it did. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's fast forward now and talk about your real estate journey, your real estate empire that you're building. How did you go from the Navy Supply Corps to real estate?
You know, I I don't know if I should just like kind of sum it up. I feel like everything I did in life, it was kind of like I really didn't plan on doing it.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So I was not in real estate at all. When my first duty station as an officer was in Yokosuka.
Okay.
So I did maybe 3.5 years in Yoko, and
Wow.
then I got an order to come back to the States, and they sent me to Northern California, Defense Distribution Depot, San Joaquin. It's right outside San Francisco,
Okay.
and so I went there. That's where I bought my first home.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was there for 3 years, did my assignment there, and I moved on. I kept the house for a rental property just because, not because I have a great plan for it, was because I think I was reporting to a ship next, and
Mm,
I didn't really know what to do with the house. I
okay.
didn't even know how to sell it or prepare for sale. I
Wow.
had a friend locally who was interested in just renting it. So it was
Nice.
like, okay, yeah, you can move in my house and pay the rent. Pay the mortgage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that went on for like 9 years. He actually lived there for the next 9 years.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was just, yeah, going about with my career, right? Not really thinking anything of it. I was just happy somebody's watching the house, living there and taking care of it, and
Yeah,
paying the mortgage, right? Like most importantly.
absolutely. Which I'm
So
sure you know is like the one like needle in a haystack scenario of real estate, because you hear more of the horror stories of renters destroying houses and doing all these things, and to have somebody be there for 9 years,
yeah,
that's huge.
yeah, and it was somebody I know and I trust,
Yeah.
and we had good communication, right? So and then in 2018 I came back from another overseas assignment. This time the Navy sent me to Washington DC.
Mm.
So and then I got married. I was getting married around the same time, and we wanted to buy a home, in DC or somewhere, near our new jobs, right? And then I was like, well, I know I'm never going back to California, so maybe it's time to sell.
Mm.
So, and to my surprise, right, that house was sold for nearly 3 times of the purchase price. Yeah, and then
Wow.
and the catch was because I'm on active, I was still on active duty, right? And then there's a different guideline for how you classify primary residence and rental
Okay.
properties.
Okay.
So if you are on active duty, you have up to 10 years to sell like a property if you lived in, but you had to move, right? But then you sell it later on. You have 10 years to claim that is your primary residence. Because typically it's 3 years,
Wow.
okay?
Okay.
So remember I told you the guy lived there for 9 years,
Yeah.
right? So I sold that house for like at 9 year and 10 months.
Wow.
And it's considered a primary residence. That
Nice.
means no tax.
Yeah.
No tax on the capital gain.
Wow.
so so of course, right, I didn't plan none of this because I didn't even understand any of
Yeah.
this, right? So I ended up with this large sum of money, and
I
I
bet.
feel like a criminal.
I can
I was
relate.
like, oh my God.
I sold our house in Jersey, and it felt the same way. I was like, "Really? You're like, I can sell it for this? That's like 3 times what we paid for it. It's like unbelievable." So I get you, and it feels wrong.
Yeah, I was for sure like I'm gonna get a call from the IRS or somebody,
Right?
like to audit something, So, but no, I mean, everything checked out. I was
Wow.
fully qualified, right, for being an active duty military member.
Yeah.
So, so really, like 2018, I ended up with this large sum of cash, and I was like, well, so what do I do? You know, so that's how everything got started.
Well,
Obviously, real estate paid me, right? So real estate.
it chose you, apparently. All of things fell into place, which is great.
So real estate was the first thing I looked to
Right.
invest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just really, I just kind of like built from there. Yeah.
So you had a house in California. You've got orders now. You're in DC. Tell me, how did Texas and Kentucky come into the mix?
Yeah, so it took me a long time to buy my first property because I really just, I still didn't understand, right? Like, I mean, all throughout the years, like even through the 10 years, I didn't really, I wasn't thinking about real estate. I wasn't thinking about like, being an investor, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to figure out like, okay, so how do I invest in real estate? What do I do? What do I buy? It took me a long time, nearly like a year of
Wow.
like just research. I did join a coaching program just because it was so overwhelming. I just really didn't know like, and of course, right, like the fear of
Yeah.
making a mistake, right?
Right.
So
Well, and you've had this huge success. You're like, I don't want to have a downer right after this huge success. So good for you for getting coaching and getting assistance.
right. So about a year later, I pulled the trigger on my first rental property, but it was so fast from there. I think within a year or maybe like a year and a half, I actually bought like four properties,
Wow.
and 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 they are not really like high end. They are very like starter rentals. They
Okay.
really affordable housings. So
Okay.
I was able to use the proceeds from my first house and as down payments
Yeah.
for these four houses. Yeah, and that's how I got started.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So now it's culminated into a business. So tell us about Crown.
So if you understand the single family, kind of like investing in single family, right? Like one of the biggest challenge or holdback, I would say, like is people like me, right? Like, okay, now I put all my money into the properties as down payment, and then of course you take on a mortgage, for like a rental property mortgage, right? So now you are out of money, you out of credit, right? Because you maxed out on the down payment, you spend all your money on down payment, and then you can only have so many mortgages to your name before your debt to income ratio becomes like not desirable for the lenders, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of like where I was after number four. I was
Mhm.
like,
Okay.
so what do I do? How do I grow?
Yeah.
um, so yeah, started looking into once I was in the real estate space, you get, I feel like I had a lot more exposure and access to information, understanding different kind of strategies to invest. And I started looking into larger properties,
Okay.
specifically multifamily, like apartment buildings,
Okay.
and then different way to partner.
Mhm.
So my first apartment, I think I purchased my first apartment building at the end of 2019. So
Wow.
you see, it all happened very fast, right? Between
Yeah.
18 and 19, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yes, with five other partners, and that opened the door to kind of like the
Mm.
commercial world, versus the residential. Um, really learn about leverage in a lot of different ways, right? You can leverage your partners, you can leverage investors, you
Yeah.
can leverage different service providers like property manager, contractors.
Okay.
Really, it's about figuring out like how I can like grow, right? Like beyond like what I can bring to a table, right? Because I can only have this much down
So
payment and
much. Yeah.
sign how much loan before I maxed out. So you
Right.
really start leverage, and there are a lot of different programs out there, um, to for people to get creative, just structure
Nice.
deal differently. Yeah, so to answer your question, the properties in Texas and Kentucky, those are all apartment buildings, some
Okay.
large ones, some smaller ones. I acquire them with partners.
Okay.
I build teams. That's how we are able to purchase that kind of assets.
Okay. So what is it, is your business, is it like you coach other people on how to get into investing in real estate and how to navigate all those other resources and leverage all those other things other than just your own assets? Is that what Crown is about?
So Crown is not a coaching company.
Okay.
We are strictly investments.
Okay.
So yeah, because when you get into coaching, it's just a whole different
It,
business, right? Like it's
it
yeah, and
is.
it's take a lot of time and
Yeah.
investment, to grow a coaching business. We're not doing that. We acquire properties. We
Right. Good
provide
for you.
opportunities to people who are interested in participating in these opportunities. But they may be like a tire landlord, like me, 5 years ago, or people. We have a lot of people like interested in investing, but they also have very busy jobs,
Mm.
so they just want to put their money into
Okay.
into work, right? Very
Sure.
much like put into the stock market, but
Yeah.
just in a different asset.
Okay.
And we do offer like more higher return in the stock market, and that's why it's desirable.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do investment, and
Okay.
it's not. I want to say like I'm a coach, but I do enjoy talking to people about it. Just kind
Yeah.
of share my story. I can maybe mentor on the, like a personal, just like a personal. This is a personal thing I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, though. But we're not a coaching company.
Okay. But I think, I guess the concept for me is that your people were able to learn how you've invested, learn from that, and be, like you said, participate as
Hmm.
a silent investor or as any type of investor in your property. So that's great. Well, congratulations on all that. I love, and my life certainly feels like I was born to do what I do. So it's almost like everything lined up to perfectly get me here. What would you tell people who are starting out and thinking about investing in real estate? What would your advice be?
I think the advice I would give now is very different, right? Like after I've been through like this journey in the last 5, 6 years,
Yeah.
if I were to give this answer a few years ago, I would say, "Oh yeah, go out get your own property," But
Right.
but,
Easy.
but like now I have learned, and then really kind of like be dragged through the ringer a few times, with bad tenants, evictions, and bad contractors, all that, right? I would say the best thing you can do it really is to get educated, and then network. There are a lot of opportunities. I know like every city has some type of real estate club, right? Like
Okay.
go to their meetings, like start networking with, just start out where you are. And of course, internet, you can find all kind of things on the internet. But definitely education is going to be the first part, because I mean, I've also seen a lot of deals gone bad. People lost. all their investments.
Wow.
People get themselves into legal issues, right? Due to, I guess intentionally or unintentionally, not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like really understand what you're getting yourself into and get educated.
Yeah. That's very good advice. Absolutely. Do you ever do any flips? Do you ever work on like buying a property and just reconverting it and then and selling it right away? I love that. The transformation of that just fascinates me.
I know HGTV
Yeah.
like makes that like seem so easy.
Yeah, it does. It does make it seem easy, that's for sure. But I know it's not. Well, we're our 25 minutes is already up. I could just talk to you for days. Tell us what's next. What's like your big goal on the horizon coming up?
Yes, definitely. I have, so as we talk about, I retired just about 6 months ago. Now I have a lot more time on my hand, and my goal is really to kind of like be more engaged or intentional with my business in real estate. And as you mentioned, Robin, my portfolio is in Texas and Kentucky, but now I live in Alabama.
Yeah.
So I have been, ever since we moved here, I have been really networking in the local real estate community, just trying to learn this market. And yeah, we will be doing some deals here, and we will definitely offer opportunities for investors as well. Alabama is a great market.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of like property tax, insurance, it's relatively stable, and the state is also very landlord friendly.
Oh, nice.
So it's a good place for me to
Woo.
be at this point of my life. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, Lupe, thank you so much for being on and sharing your story and your, the triumphs and the challenges of real estate. It is not easy, but congratulations on all your success, and we'll look forward to watching you continue to grow.
Thank you, Robin. Hope to see you here in
Yes,
Alabama.
absolutely.